This Tuesday morning preview of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now, with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons and tons of cards. So with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, boxing, they have it all. So go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use our promo code Sports Addict for 10% off every card in the First Round Collectibles store. Sales items and non-sales items alike. That's the number one, STRoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a beautiful Tuesday morning. Boy, did I ever butcher that intro. This is not a preview show. This is a review show. We're going to put a bow on the Western Conference Finals today, but it is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Good to be back. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend, long weekend when it comes to the Pucks Across Borders crew. Took yesterday off, but we're back to talk about the ending to the Western Conference Finals, and we'll do a full preview on the Stanley Cup as the week goes on. But first, as always, I am Mark Sauter. It is good to be here. And right beside me at the top of the screen, you read his gambling picks on Winners and Winers. You read his work on Give Me Sport. Andre, how we feeling on a Tuesday morning, bro?
Feeling pretty good. Can't complain. Weather's nice. Woke up nice and early. It's time to get going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. At the bottom of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. John, how are you feeling on a Tuesday, bro?
I'm feeling all right. I got the playoff beard going right now, but I'm thinking I'm going to have to cut it before the Stanley Cup Final begins.
Yeah, I mean, no, dude, I love a good beard, man. Like I told you guys about a month ago, I friggin' singed off half my beard in a barbecue accident. Otherwise, I'd have a massive beard still. But now my wife likes the short beard, so I don't know what we're going to do. It's a very contentious issue in the Sauter household. So before we get into, we do have a game 6. We're just going to put a bow on that series. Pardon me. And then, as I said, we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final. We do have a final, the Edmonton Oilers, Florida Panthers. That starts on Saturday, because why not just wait as long as humanly possible to get the playoffs started? And why not play game 7 a week before July? Makes sense to everybody involved. And so we're going to talk about all that as the week goes on. But first, I just want to quickly do a shout out. I posted on Twitter yesterday. Yesterday, I had an opportunity for my first play-by-play experience, which was a lot of fun. Got to call a high school lacrosse tournament in my community, which was a great time. Did that for Rogers TV. So shout out to OFSA Lacrosse and Rogers TV for having me on board. That was a lot of fun. And it looks like I'll be doing more work with Rogers TV for some local sports in the future, maybe a little baseball, maybe a little hockey. We'll see what happens, but looking forward to that opportunity in the future. Really great time. They took care of us. The kids had a lot of fun. The championship rounds are going on today. So if you sitting around the house, you want to watch some high school lacrosse, RogersTV.com has the live stream of the championship day in the high school lacrosse OFSA tournament. So go check that out. Guys, I had a little, not flashback, flash forward, a little preview of my future hanging around sports parents. And we all know the stories. Maybe you have some personal ones. Maybe it's a sister or a aunt or uncle, or maybe your own parents were crazy sports parents. Maybe when you played sports as a kid, your friends' parents were crazy sports parents. If your kids have the opportunity to play a sporting event on live TV and the broadcasters are accessible, I would ask you, do not go up to them while they're talking live on television and tell them all the wonderful things about your child that they need to say on air. Holy moly. We're like, we're calling the game. We're like, number 94. We have all the stats, but we've never watched these kids. So we're like, number 94, this name and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, this woman is just right in front of my face. And I'm just like trying to, do my job. And my son plays varsity in this, and he did this, and he scored this many goals. And it's like, yo, lady, like literally I'm on TV. Like it's really weird. Like no other job do you just go and bother people in the middle of their work to, tell them information. Really weird. Just sports parents are just weird. And I feel like I'm going to be that guy, and I'm hoping not. I'm really trying to do all the personal work on myself that I can do before my child plays competitive sports. But man, sports parents, just super weird. Super weird. I don't know. Do you guys have any crazy like sports parent stories? Any crazy thing that's happened like growing up with sports? Andre, I feel like you got something cooking.
There are plenty of things I could say. There's a lot that I'm not going to say, at least on air. But yeah, there's plenty of stories I could tell. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've had a
that.
couple stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we did have quite a few people, whether it was a husband or a wife, come up to us after we were done the game and say, hey, my spouse is watching at home, saying you guys are doing a great job. That was really cool. We appreciate all of that. But to tell us how awesome your kid is while we're literally on television is quite a move. Quite a move. But anyway, excellent time at the tournament yesterday. Once again, shout out to OFSA, and you can watch Championship Day all day if you want to watch some high school lacrosse on RogersTV.com. I'm clearly not there, so you won't hear my voice, but my guy Aaron is doing a great job all by his lonesome today. All right, like I said, we're going to get into the Stanley Cup Final as the week goes on. But first, we had a Game 6 on, man, what day is it even? Sunday night. The Edmonton Oilers, Dallas Stars, Game 6. John, we'll start with you, man. That was one of the weirdest series clinching games that I can remember. You look at the stat sheet and you look at 35-10, the shots, you look at like it just very, very weird sequence of events. Even with the score or the shot total being 35, it never felt like the Stars were going to win that game. It just never felt like they were going to gain the momentum needed to win, even though for like 45 minutes they controlled the majority of the play. I don't want to say dominated, but the Oilers didn't have a lot of life for the majority of that game, but it still never really felt like the Stars were going to find a way to win. John, we'll start with you, man. What'd you take away from that game?
That's not really how I looked at it. Like, honestly, despite the stat sheet, it felt like Edmonton was cruising in that game to me. Like, I never really felt like Dallas was going to win that game. And I had to look at the stat sheet at the end. I'm like, holy cow, what just happened here? Because, like, I don't know. I felt like Edmonton had control of that game despite not getting a lot of shots on goal. It apparently was the least amount of shots on goal ever in a conference final clinching game, the very specific stat of the day. But I know they got outshot 35-10, but it looked like the Oilers were doing almost as well as they were in the previous games. I felt like it was going in a similar direction, and despite Dallas getting a goal late in the game, like again, I felt like the Oilers had control of the game from almost start to finish. I don't care how many shots on goal Dallas had. They never really felt like they were going to come back and win that game to me. I never felt like they were going to force a game 7 once Edmonton went up 2-0. Just it almost felt like one of those garbage time goals that the Rangers got in their last 2 games. So I don't know. I just didn't for how many shots on goal Dallas had. Never really. I think Edmonton did a good job making sure they weren't getting that many great opportunities. McDavid stepped up again for the Oilers. Skinner really stepped up. Got to give him a lot.
Oh yeah.
I got to give him a lot of. I think Game 6 is the most pro Skinner game of the 3 they won in the back end of the series. I think you could argue Skinner played the biggest role in Game 6 compared to the previous 2 because of how many shots on goal Dallas had. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit hesitant to say Dallas played better because I really don't think they did. Dallas, I'm not really sure what happened to them. I think Edmonton deserves a lot of props for the defense. And Mark, you and I were mentioning this in the live chat during the game. Like Edmonton went on a pretty historic run with the PK. Like they shut down Dallas the whole series. And I can at least say I thought the power play would be the thing that would get Edmonton over the top on special teams if they were to do something. But it turned out it was their penalty kill that really shined in not just this series, but probably back as far as the Vancouver series too. So I think Edmonton deserves a lot of props for the defensive play. I think they're getting more depth contribution at the right time. Also, Skinner has really found himself again. So I think now, like Edmonton probably would want to be playing like literally today because they're on such a hot streak right now. I'm going to be interested to see how they recover from this because I think this actually hurts them more of the 2 teams in the final compared to Florida. So I'm going to be interested to see how Edmonton adjusts from having all these days off. But I think the way they played in the last 3 games, there was no doubt Edmonton deserved to win this series. And I think it's given me hope that Edmonton could win the Stanley Cup again. Like, I don't know. I just think they have the highest ceiling now.
Well, I disagree slightly about the days off thing because, like, the Panthers wrapped up their series on Saturday, right? It's not like they wrapped it up in like a 4-game sweep or something. Like their series ended in 6 games as well. The only real difference might be that they were in Florida already. And the Oilers are the ones who have to travel like 4,089 kilometers, I believe. I don't know what that is in miles. Maybe our crack research staff can look up, which is us really. So like that might be a factor. I do agree with you. Like I felt like the Stars controlled play. I don't think that they necessarily played better. I mean, we've been seeing this from the Oilers all playoffs long. They do this weird thing where they go up in the lead, take a lead, and then they just put it on cruise control. And not cruise control like they're not playing, but they're just way more defensive minded. They're not really trying to create a lot of offense. They're just trying to lock things down. And as much as the Stars had 35 shots, they had some really good quality chances. They did. But the majority of them were kept to the outside. I think for me, like, listen, I said this at the beginning of the Vancouver series, and and I still think it remains true. Stuart Skinner is gettable, and he is capable of a letdown performance, like all goaltenders are. I will say, though, I was very hesitant to fully believe in Stuart Skinner heading into Game 6 because those last two games against the Canucks had like what? I don't think they even had 20 shots in Game 6 or 7. Like combined they did, but you know what I mean? Like total in each game, I don't think that the Canucks put up 20 shots in Game 6 or 7. And in Games 4 and 5, the Stars had like very minimal high quality chances. Like the Stars did not challenge Skinner at all. And that game on Sunday night was by far the best game that Stuart Skinner had in the playoffs. And a lot of people who've watched this guy play way more than I have, a lot of people are saying that that was his best game of his career. And so, you know, now you have Bobrovsky on the other end. And I love me some Jake Ottinger. Great goaltender, young kid, going to have a really bright future. He's not Sergei Bobrovsky. So that's a whole different goaltending dynamic, you know, Skinner versus a Vezina winner. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know, Andre. It just felt like the Oilers unlocked some magic defensive secret that, like, after what was it? It was Game 4. Stars are up 2-1 in the series. They go up 2-0 in the first 5 minutes of Game 4, and after that, it just they just disappeared. And it's really hard to put my finger on it. I don't fully understand it, but you have to give credit to the Oilers. Like their defensive play was just outstanding for those last 3 games. And what's really funny about this to me is we were talking before the series about the special teams. And we were talking about how the special teams are going to be this huge factor. And they were a factor throughout the series in the sense that they were a non-factor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no team could score on the power play. The Oilers couldn't score on the power play. Stars couldn't score on the power play. Yet Game 6, both goals by the Oilers on the power play, and the Stars couldn't. So it ended up being a huge factor in Game 6. It just wasn't really a factor for the rest of the series. Huge props to the Oilers. They deserve to win. It was kind of funny how their depth came to play in Games 4 and 5, but then it was Connor McDavid and Hyman who kind of took the game in game 6. But I do feel like this is a huge missed opportunity for the Dallas Stars. Like I have to look into it. I don't know off the top of my head who's a free agent, who, you know, is signed long term, what the cap space is like. I don't have all that information at the top of my head. But 2 conference finals in a row, you go down 3-0 to Vegas, you end up losing in 6. You go up 2-1 on the Oilers, you end up losing in 6. That it's a really, really missed opportunity for the Dallas Stars. But for the Edmonton Oilers, first time back to the Cup Final since 2006. This whole country is just going absolutely bonkers right now. A lot of people pumped for the Oilers, a lot of people jealous of the Oilers, specifically in my city. But it's huge props to the Oilers. You can't take it away from them. I just feel like for Dallas, this was a massive missed opportunity, like huge. And I am shocked. I am actually shocked that they go up 2-1 and they don't win a game for the rest of the series. I that actually really does surprise me. Andre, what about you, man? What'd you take away from Sunday night?
Just it was a bizarre game for sure. I think to your point though, you said the special teams wasn't a factor. It just felt like there weren't that many penalties just in general.
No.
Edmonton went 4 for 11 on the power play in the series, but that's less than 2 power play chances per game. So yeah, they're 30-something%, almost 40, but at the same time, they were just never a man up to really take advantage of it. Dallas was 0 for 14. So 25 total power plays through 6 games. That's roughly 2 per game for each team. That's not that many. So it was super weird for that aspect. On top of the fact that Edmonton's special teams on both fronts just continues to shine in this postseason. The power play was never an issue. They obviously have McDavid, who does things that nobody else can right now. They obviously have Draisaitl, who's one of the best playmakers in the game in his own right. They obviously have Zach Hyman, who lives on the doorstep. Bouchard's great driving the play. Nugent Hopkins flies under the radar. He's a former first overall pick. So, I mean, the talent's obviously there on that power play. That penalty kill wasn't supposed to be what it is in this postseason. And I think that's been one of the biggest differences for this team in this run.
28 straight. That was the number, 28 straight.
I don't remember the exact number, but it's been on a tear.
Yeah.
Because Vancouver didn't do anything at the end of that series either. So that to me is the biggest difference. But yeah, they took that 2-0 lead, and then it just seemed like Dallas was just skating up ice, getting a couple shots, get a hairy moment every once in a while. But then for the most part, they were just chasing the puck back in their zone, skating it back. It was just a weird dichotomy, a tug of war. And then, Edmonton, I wouldn't say because they weren't interested in shooting the puck, but to finish with 10 shots after you score 2 goals in the first period is really strange. They didn't need them though. Skinner, you hit the nail on the head. Skinner was fantastic. He looked sharp the entire time. I think that was the first time I've ever watched him and really felt like, wow, this guy, he's good. Like, they're gonna win this game. He's not gonna fall apart. Usually when you watch Edmonton games going on a decade now, you're just waiting for the goalie to absolutely have a meltdown, especially like closing moments of the playoffs. You're on the verge of a Stanley Cup Final, conference final, series win, whatever. You're just used to seeing just the absolute implosion back there. But Skinner, he was sharp. He didn't have to make a ton of crazy saves, but he made some very, very good saves that probably won't go as noticed as they should. So, I mean, Edmonton's in great shape. I think this might be looking ahead a little bit. I think Evander Kane might need to do a little more for them if they're going to win the cup. I'm very interested to see McDavid's speed against Florida's physicality, how that works. If they kind of give him a little more room, or if they try to take his head off and whiff, or if they try to take his head off and succeed. You never know. So I think that's going to be really interesting. But, I mean, we doubted Edmonton after maybe some of us more than others, mostly me. I guess I could be talking about myself here. We didn't expect that defense and goaltending to hold up for 12 wins.
No.
To get 12 wins in this postseason. So the first 4 maybe were a given. The next 8, like, hats off to them. They're playing their best hockey again, like they were during the regular season. So to turn on at the right time. And Coach Knobloch deserves a ton of applause for taking over this team mid-season for Woodcroft and getting them here. I mean, he was gearing up for an AHL run, and now he's 4 wins away from a Stanley Cup. So that's a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Hell of 6 months or whatever it is. So
I'm actually really glad that you mentioned that, Andre, because in his press conference on Sunday, my son's got a lot to say this morning. In his press conference on Sunday, the press asked him, like, who do you think, like, what comes to your mind when, you think about this win? And his first thought was his family. And he was just saying how, like, I was in the AHL making no money, and now all of a sudden I'm preparing for a Stanley Cup final. And without my family, I wouldn't be able to do this. Without my wife, like, he was like breaking down, like, my wife, was making like six figures and she quit it all so that I could chase this stupid dream. And it was a really cool personal moment. Really, really cool personal moment for him. And so, Andre, like, I was thinking about this yesterday, just what you were talking about. Like, I thought the Canucks were going to win that series in round 2. I thought the Stars were going to win this series in round 3. And I was thinking about it, like, was I just way off? Like, was I just completely wrong? And I honestly don't think I was. Like, the depth of the Oilers has been extremely concerning all playoffs long. But I was looking at it from a production perspective. Defensively, those bottom 2 lines have been really, really effective. And so, yeah, they're not really contributing a couple games during this round. But like, it's the other teams that just couldn't get going. I think Vancouver was exposed quite a bit for who they really are. But for Dallas, like, I just can't stop thinking about what a missed opportunity this was for them. I feel like they were way better than they showed in the last couple games, but I feel like the depth for the Oilers defensively is not getting enough credit for how they've been performing. Like, I was watching games 5 and 6, and Connor Brown, who has been getting destroyed by the media all year long, he was all over the ice. I feel like we were listening to Connor Brown. He was on the ice with a minute left. They had some third line, fourth line players out on the ice with 1 minute left to make sure that Dallas doesn't score. Like, that was what was really impressive for me. And you're talking about the Florida Panthers. You're talking about Evander Kane. I was thinking about this too. Like, who is the most Sam Bennett like player for the Oilers? Because that guy changes the game. Like, his dirty play, he scores goals. Like, that guy is a game changer. Who is that player for the Oilers? And it's Evander Kane. And like that, at least to me, like, he's a little dirty, he's chippy, but he can score goals. And it feels like he's been somewhat invisible out there a little bit.
Yeah. I think he's hurt. I feel like he barely played in Game 6. Don't quote me on that. But he gets chippy. He can drive the other team crazy for sure. Obviously, goal scoring tends not to be an issue for him. He had 26 this year during the regular season, and he's had 20 for most of his career. Like, when you're talking about season by season, 20 plus. So, I mean, Evander Kane's a guy where only 8 points in this postseason, 4 goals, 4 assists, and they're still in the Cup final. He's a guy that typically, you're talking about secondary or tertiary scoring. He's right there at the forefront for this team. They've made it this far without him, but now is the time where you want to lift that trophy. Maybe punch somebody in the face. Get in front of Bob and make his life a nightmare. That's what they need right now in particular. So they need a little chaos. They need to get a little dirty, and I think that's the guy who should step up for him. I think this guy they need to step up for, because I don't know who else on that roster is really capable of really driving another team crazy.
Well, and Florida, like, Dallas is a really good team, and I think if Dallas won, they would have a really good chance to beat the Florida Panthers. But Florida is just mentally, I feel like they're just on another level than everybody else. Like we talked about this, they're not scared to take penalties. They're not scared to be dirty, to be chippy. Like they'll just be jerks to you just for the fun of it. The interesting thing that I'm really looking forward to watching, and we'll break this down throughout the week, but John, I think this is right up your alley. The Florida Panthers are the most penalized team in the National Hockey League in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that power play for the Oilers, as much as it was a little bit dry in the Western Conference Finals, that power play is historically good. So that's going to be a really, really interesting thing to watch moving forward. And I just want to make a public service announcement right now on Twitter, or about Twitter. I don't want to see, like, I got kid, man. Like, my kid's with me on my phone. I'm scrolling through Twitter. I got my kid with me. I got my wife right beside me on the couch. Like, how are these women doing what they're doing? It's just on Twitter. Like, there's no, like, there's no like sensitivity, like warning, like this is sensitive or whatever. It's just there. Like, and now there's like, I don't want to be too, there's a
lot
battle.
of not safe for work stuff on Twitter in general.
Like,
but I've been seeing that everywhere.
Well, and there's like a battle now. I just saw someone put out a Stanley Cup Finals preview, and it was Florida Panthers. There was women in Florida Panthers jerseys doing their thing, and Oilers fans doing their thing. And it's just like, how is this just on Twitter? Like, I cannot have that just popping up on my screen. Like, you know what I mean? We all deserve a choice, and it's just crazy how Twitter is just becoming the Wild West now. But we will put a bow on this series. John, do you have anything to add before we sign off for the day?
We talked about Edmonton going into the final. I'm just gonna put a bow on the Dallas side, since this is probably the last episode we're gonna talk about them. I think, Mark, you got me thinking about this when you went on your monologue about Dallas. I think this is about as far as they go with their core group. I really think this is it for them. I think they missed their shot. I agree. The last 2 years, like, for a couple of reasons. Peter DeBoer, God bless him, he's lost 5 straight conference finals now. And I guess the Oilers were like, we can't let this go to game 7 because he's like historically undefeated there. But I'm half joking. The other end of this is like, when you look at Dallas's core.
I don't think you are, John. I think that their performance at home, game 5, was so awful that if it got, because that was really where the series was lost. Like, game 5, Friday night at home, the Mavericks just went to the finals themselves. Like, that was your opportunity, and they choked hard on Friday. Like, that was a really bad game. And so I think it was so bad that if it went back to Dallas for game 7, Dallas was going to roll. Like, I think that if that went to game 7 in Dallas, Dallas was going to win that game. So I don't think you are joking, man. I think that's 100% valid.
I don't even think it's just about DeBoer and the home ice advantage too. I look at Dallas's core a little closely now, and it's like, I don't think they're going to be built to go back to take that next step next year, because Wyatt Johnson's a free agent and they're paying him like $1 million a year, something like that. I don't think they're going to keep him at the rate they're going, or they're going to have to pay him a lot more, one or the other. And Jason Robertson's only going to get more expensive. Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn are not getting any younger. So I just really question if this is about as far as they go, because they made the conference finals the last 2 years. And I think the way their roster is built, and maybe having a Peter DeBoer curse on top of that, I'm starting to think they're just not meant to go any further with this group.
That's a really fun conversation to have on a different day. I do agree with you I agree with you because they're going to have to strip away more expensive players. They're not getting rid of Wyatt Johnston. If they don't re-sign Wyatt Johnston, they have. Oh yeah, you have to pay that kid, man. You can't. You cannot let him walk. You can't. And so, but like Joe Pavelski, terrific career. 2/3 of this season, he was phenomenal. He disappeared for the majority of those playoffs. Jamie Benn, still a very effective player, but Ryan Suter, like I feel like if you only watched your local market, you would have thought that Ryan Suter retired like 5 years ago, and he's still just like doing his thing. Like, so I do agree with you, but Wyatt Johnston is going to be there for if like they would be insane to let that kid go. But yeah, it's going to be really, really fascinating to watch moving forward. So tomorrow we will not have a show. Tomorrow we're going to take one more day off before we get ready for a busy Stanley Cup Finals. Thursday we will be back. Friday we're going to do our Stanley Cup preview and our Game 1 preview. We will not have a show on Saturday. So for the series preview and Game 1 preview, join us on Friday morning and we're going to talk about it all. That puts a bow on the first 3 rounds of the Stanley Cup Finals. Boys, I feel like it was just yesterday that we're talking about the trade deadline and we are getting super bored talking about San Jose and Chicago on a Tuesday night. And now all of a sudden, here we are, Stanley Cup Finals right around the corner. Cannot wait. To everybody watching, whether you're watching live or throughout the day, we appreciate you. Shout out to First Round Collectibles. With our promo code Sports Addict, at 10% off every card in the First Round Collectibles store. That includes any items on sale. They have a continual sale up to 50% off dozens of cards. With our promo code, you get 10% off of regular priced and sales priced items. FirstRoundCollectibles.com. Guys, have a wonderful, wonderful day today and tomorrow, and we will see you on Thursday.